everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the Locals and Nomads Meetup, sponsored by Split Tech City. I'm Sarah Dyson. I have a company called Expat in Croatia. So today I'm doing a Q&A on the digital nomad permit. So I usually do a thing on Fridays at 5 o'clock where I go live on Instagram and I answer 5 questions from our audience. So we already did that with Michael and Nicolita a little while ago at 5 o'clock, but I'm going to do it in the same format that I usually do it. So there's a little bit of an intro, and I want to explain that because I'm going to say that it's 5 o'clock, even though you all know it is not 5 o'clock. So setting that expectation now. If there are questions that you have throughout this, you're welcome to shout those out if you'd like. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Sound good, everybody? Awesome. Okay, so welcome. Starts on Meetup. Happy Friday. My name is Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, answer 5 questions from people who have sent them in on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, expatinCroatia.com, email, my consulting sessions, Cam's consulting sessions, and people who pop out of a cake and say, ta-da, here's my question. So I have 5 questions today, all focused on the digital nomad permit. So this first question comes from Tanya, and she asks, what happens if you apply for the digital nomad permit using your current job, but after getting the permit, say 3 or 4 months of living in Croatia, you lose that job? Is there ongoing proof of employment needed or some other process in place once you get the permit? No. MOOC does not do any due diligence. Once you submit that application, that is all that they are looking at. And the dirty little secret is that when you submit this application, you say, this is my job, they're not contacting that employer to actually see if that is true. So no. And I've also seen retirees use the digital nomad permit. So they use their employment to apply for it, get the permit, and then like a month after, they retired. And MOOC has no idea that they have done that. Now, at Expat in Croatia, we would never advise anyone to break the law. In fact, we emphatically advise that you do not break the law and that you never lie to the government. What our job is to provide you with accurate information so that you can make an informed decision about your own situation. Okay? All right, this next question comes from Arian. I have the Croatian digital nomad permit, which expires in 3 months, and I am not a European. How long could I stay out of Croatia and another Schengen country on this permit? So there are a few different ways to approach this, but I want to set a baseline. If you're applying for the digital nomad permit, that means you're a third country national. So you're not a European, you are not EU, you're not EEA. So there are certain requirements and restrictions that apply to Europeans, and there are certain requirements and restrictions that apply to third country nationals. So we're just talking about third country nationals in this context, since we're talking about the digital nomad permit. So to maintain your residence in Croatia, you cannot leave for more than 90 days in a 12-month period, and you can't leave for more than 30 days at one time. Now, the amount of time that you can spend in Schengen is the same regardless of whether or not you have residence in Croatia. So you can only spend 90 days in a 180-day period in the Schengen zone, regardless of your digital nomad permit in Croatia. That stays the same. Now, the question that I get very, very often is, well, how's Croatia going to know? How are they going to know how long I'm in Schengen? How will they know I'm outside of Croatia if there's no borders? First of all, there are borders. There are borders and checkpoints in 9 countries. They have reintroduced them recently. So if you want to know which they are, there are lists online where you can get that, although we do have it. So if you would like that, you can talk to me after. I can get you the link of that list. So Schengen is not borderless. That's one thing to keep in mind. Second, if you encounter the police in any kind of situation, like maybe you're in an accident, you get pulled over, or if you just check into an accommodation, because in most European countries, if you check into an accommodation, they ask for your passport, they ask for your ID, and so they're reporting your presence to the police. So that is how Croatia is going to know. That is how the Schengen zone is going to know if you are overstaying in any individual country. So it's not worth breaking those rules. Of course, there are lots of people who do that anyways. I've spoken personally to a lot of people who want to get a permit in Croatia just so that they can spend 9 months, 10 months out in the Schengen zone and not actually be in Croatia, which is really not what the residence permit in Croatia is for. You're meant to be here in Croatia. Now, if you get in trouble, if you get caught, you're risking fines and you're risking a ban. And I have seen people get banned for a minimum of 1 year, and the fines can be in the thousands of euros. So it's really not worth the risk. But like I said, our job is to inform you of the rules, and then you can make your own decisions on what kind of risk you would like to take. Okay, our third question comes from Nadia. If my partner and I take turns applying for the digital nomad permits and family reunification in between, would this count towards permanent residence? So say first I'm a digital nomad, I work online, and my husband is my spouse, and then the next time he turns into digital nomad, and then I become the spouse. All right. You can use this to definitely stay longer in Croatia. I've seen people do it. Is it legal? Not really. Could you get permanent residence based on this? We don't know yet. So let me unpack that a little bit. Why do we not know? Well, the digital nomad permit was implemented in March 2021. So to qualify for long-term residence, you have to have 5 continuous years of temporary residence in Croatia. That means the earliest that someone would even qualify if they use this method would be March 2026. So we're not there yet. We still have 2 years away before someone with this use case could even attempt it. Now, there's nothing in the law that would prevent them from doing so. The time on the digital nomad permit does qualify for long-term residence. There's discussion online that suggests it's not, but the reason that's not true, and the reason it's not true is because there's nothing in the law that says that it doesn't qualify. There's actually a list in the law on foreigners that says these are the reasons that you can get residence that do not qualify for long-term residence, and digital nomad is not on there. But the reason there's confusion about it is because the permit is not renewable. At the end of your 12 months, you have to leave for at least 90 days, and then you can come back as a tourist for 90 days, and then you can apply again once 6 months and 1 day has elapsed. If you do that, your residence gets broken, and then you can never qualify for long-term residence in that way. So this person, Nadia, she would like to kind of hack it a little bit with her spouse, where they switch back and forth. Now that's possible, but these are the things that you have to know about that. When you're applying for the digital nomad permit and you have a spouse, the digital nomad is the one who has the tax exemption on their working income, not their spouse. The digital nomad is the one who has the right to work, not their spouse. So in this case, they would actually be violating the law because the spouse doesn't have the right to work for anybody, not in Croatia, not for a foreign company. Croatia is very explicit on who has the right to work. So they could try this. There's no guarantee that the police would actually approve a permanent residence application based on using this method. And they also have to understand that they are taking a legal risk. That being said, if their spouse is working, even though they don't have permission to work, they are a tax resident and they would be required to report and potentially pay tax on that income. Now, whether or not the tax office and MUP would actually talk to each other and figure out what they're doing, who's to say? But it definitely is a risk. And the last thing I want to say about that, because I think this is also a common misunderstanding, is the spouse also does not have a waiver on health insurance, on the state health insurance. They have to get the state health insurance, but the digital nomad does not. Okay, so every week about this time, we also have a lawyer tip of the week. So at Expat in Croatia, we have a vetted network of lawyers across Croatia who help our clients with citizenship and residence, property, and pretty much any other legal snafu that they may be able to get into. And we work very closely with them so that we can vet all of our content. Make sure that what I'm telling you right now is actually accurate and lawful. So one of our lawyers gave me a tip specifically for digital nomads. So this is a direct quote. You can choose between 2 routes to prove your income, showing payments for the last 6 months or just one lump sum. If you can, show one lump sum instead. This way, nobody sees what you have for the last 6 months. It's less complicated and it offers more privacy. Okay. So our next question comes from Carol on email. I'm on the digital nomad permit right now. A Croatian employer wants to hire me to work as a web developer. Can I switch from the digital nomad permit to a working permit without leaving Croatia? Yes, definitely, absolutely. Now, there are two situations here. You have people who need a visa to enter Croatia, and then you have people who can enter Croatia without a visa. And how this is handled varies depending on which situation you're in. So if you are required to have a visa to enter Croatia, then you have to be very strategic about how you go about this, because you can't have two permits at one time. And you can't apply for a permit while you already have another permit already in place. There are some nuances to that, but this is not the time to unpack all of that. So, what you need to do if you require a visa to enter Croatia and you want to change the basis of your permit, then you need to cancel your digital nomad permit and have the new company apply for your new working permit the same day. That's how you can do it so that you won't have to leave the country. Now, if you're not required to have a visa to enter Croatia, then you have a little bit more flexibility here. I would still advise that you do it this way, because if you're on a track to get long-term residence, you don't want to break your residence. So doing it back to back, doing it seamlessly this way without a break in between is going to guarantee that you maintain that residence and make sure that it is unbroken. But you do have flexibility. So you could cancel your digital nomad permit and turn it into a tourist stay. That is something you actually physically have to go to MUP or contact MUP to implement, to change to a tourist stay. But also, the only way you can do that is if you have Schengen time left. So if you've been traveling in the Schengen zone in the previous 90 days, you have to keep that in mind. That's another reason why it's advantageous to just do it all the exact same day. Okay. So, the last question, and this is kind of my favorite one because of who it came from. So, someone working for the government in a suburb of Splits called me, got my phone number from the Digital Nomad Association to ask me about the rights of digital nomads. I'm going to call her Slavica. Do digital nomads have the right to enroll their children in school? Yes, definitely, absolutely. And in fact, all kids are required to be enrolled in school up to the age of 15. Homeschooling is not allowed in Croatia. Now, there is an exception. If your child is enrolled in an online program that is accredited, you can get permission, like a waiver from the government, to allow your child to do that. But you can't just keep them home and then you educate them yourselves under 15. That is not allowed. And this is a big issue, because there are a lot of digital nomads who are coming to Croatia and their families, and they want to keep their kids at home because they're nervous that their kids aren't going to be able to socialize. They don't understand the language. They're not sure how they're going to do in Croatian schools, so they'd rather eliminate that entirely. But the rules are in Croatia is they have to be in school. And Croatian schools do offer up to 70 hours of instruction in Croatian language for all kids who are not fluent in Croatian. Now, talking with parents, this 70 hours doesn't work so well for older kids, so it's recommended that you have a supplemental tutor, but it works pretty well for younger kids. But of course, every single school is going to be different, and it's important that if you do have kids, or your friends have kids, and they're in this situation, that they talk to other foreign parents in the community to understand what their options are and what that education is going to look like. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for being here. This has been 5 Question Friday, and have a great weekend. Michael?
Any questions for Sarah? Questions? Stay there. You're not going anywhere. Go sit down.
Question.
You sure? What? We have a question. Let's go.
Yeah. Go. So it's me. The couple that wants to do it back to back.
Yes.
Isn't there a provision that you can do 2 digital nomad visas?
Yes. However, if you are a digital nomad it's a loophole. Mm-hmm. Something allowed because it's not forbidden. So if you are the spouse and then you change, I'm making this too complicated. You have the digital nomad and you have family reunification, okay? And those two things are considered different bases under the eyes of the law, under the eyes of MUP. So if you are the digital nomad on 1 year and then you become a spouse under family reunification, that's considered two different bases. It's not considered digital nomad. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
But 5 years, wouldn't that, that gives you 4 years. You're missing
No,
1
but you
year.
keep going.
You keep going back and forth.
That's allowed, basically, to like skip step, that's allowed.
Yes, it's allowed at the moment. I mean, there are a number of different ways that foreigners can kind of hack their way to 5 years, but not all of them actually will get you on a path to long-term residence. In most cases, it just means you can stay here longer.
Can it still be me, my question?
Yeah.
Can you still combine digital nomad plus other purposes, for example? Is that still allowed?
Yes, you can. Although we heard through one of our lawyers through a back channel with MUP Zagreb that they're not, they're intending to kind of start to curb that. But every police station is different. And so far, we have not seen anyone who has been denied on that basis. They keep allowing people to make applications like that. No problem.
I have a question. So far, is MUP getting better or is it getting worse?
Ooh.
In terms of what?
In terms of processing time.
Oh, worse. Definitely worse. Absolutely. Actually, Piero over there.
11 and a half months for digital nomad.
Is anyone else waiting for the digital nomad permit? How many months so far?
Just two.
Just 2.
But to that question, if you're waiting still to get it and your time has stopped because of your approval pending and you leave, what happens to you? Do you have to, cancel your?
You want to leave and never come back?
Well, at least for a couple months or whatnot. What's the?
I think if you want us to have to cancel it yourself, the application, or
Yes.
yeah. What happens to the application?
And will you run into problems if you leave and you go into another country
Okay.
past your time?
If you're intending to, are you intending never to claim the permit, or is that the hypothetical we're talking about?
Hypothetical.
Okay. If you never intend to claim the permit, then yes, you should cancel the process. That's for a number of different reasons. So one, it just saves the government time because they're going to continue to process an application for no reason, So it's, at a minimum, it's the right thing to do to tell them that you don't want to do this application anymore and cancel it. The other reason is that when they do their due diligence as part of that, they send somebody to the accommodation or the property to see if you're actually living there. And if you're not there, then there's a number of procedures that go into place. And there are fines that could happen. It doesn't have, the fines I find, no, they are fining people. I'm going to take that back. They are fining people. So that means if you ever want to come back, you're going to have to pay that fine before you start again. And I'd say also, I see your hand, darling. I'd also say that when you do have those fines on your record, because Croatia is a country of massive discretion, there's no way to know that whoever deals with your future permit applications may hold that against you. That is just always a risk. That answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. Just knowing that it's taken people over a year, and if your plans change, kind of.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Mine was the worst case that the lawyer ever seen. Usually it's like less. I was an outlier, so.
We were trying to get Piero deported, okay? And the MUP just didn't get around to it. So then he became Italian and we're stuck with him forever. Hi, Piero. I can't even see him.
Yeah. Say that to my face.
But however, when you apply for the digital nomad permit and you're not in the country, you put down an address that you're going to be at when you arrive.
Yes.
So could she not inform MUP, hey, I'm leaving, but this will be my address when I come back? Like tweak the application?
I have found that MUP cannot handle it when you try and change an address midstream.
Okay.
They really cannot.
Okay.
And actually, I've seen people be fined because of that, because they went to go and try and change their address, and MUP wouldn't let them do it because, again, like sparks. And then when they came back and got approved, they're like, "You're at a different address now? Ah, fine."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for failing to change it. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So but if it's a situation where you're waiting and you want to go travel, that's an option. But it's important to inform MUP that you do that, again, because they're going to come and do an accommodation check. That's really the biggest reason. And then also, you want to get a document from them proving that your application is in process, because if you're going to cross a border, you may not be able to get back in. Anything to add?
No. No.
I have a question. So I have a digital nomad visa in Spain, and I'm thinking of working for a Croatian company.
Okay.
So I was thinking of applying for the work in Croatia visa. Can I do that with a digital nomad visa, and how long would it actually take to get the visa? Like if I was working here in Croatia.
If you're working for a Croatian company, you can't use the digital nomad permit. You need a work permit.
And so you can apply for that.
Yeah. Then the company is required to obtain it on your behalf, except unless it's a blue card. Blue card is a special kind of work permit, then you can do that for yourself. Work permits are prioritized at MUP. So, for example, I think it's pretty safe to assume that the reason that we're seeing such delays now is because we had 190,000 work permits last year. So that's most likely why that's taking so long. Work permits typically are expedited. It just kind of depends. I'd say 1 to 2 months is normally how long that takes.
But your digital nomad permit that you have in Spain will only apply to Spain anyway. So whatever their rules are, it's up to them to say. Whether you being here for a month breaks that or whatever, that's up for them to say. So. Okay. Cool. Any other questions? For the Croatians in the room, because I can see a few of you, these questions that you're hearing, if you're ever thinking of being a remote worker or a digital nomad, these could be the things you face when you go to these other countries. So actually hearing this gives you an insight of what it's like to travel to these other countries and to get, because there's digital nomad visas everywhere now, right? So if you ever wanted to go to Thailand or to... Don't go to the US.
Don't have to tell me twice.
Cool.
No, there's one in Montenegro now.
Yep. And I think Bosnia are creating theirs, so...
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, we were second in the world. Like always, football, water polo. Oh no, we won the water polo. So, yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Okay, well, Sarah's going to stick around, so if you need to ask her something privately, you can.
Okay.
You can stay if you want.
Yeah?
Yeah, up to you. Yeah.